Hi. Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner. I'm a critic, consultant, and programmer based in Toronto, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Lucía Aleñar Iglesias, a writer and director whose feature debut, Forastera, explores the changing emotional dynamics within a grieving family after the death of their matriarch in Majorca. Perhaps the hardest hit is granddaughter Cata, who starts wearing her grandmother's dresses and filling her role in the house, though whether this is a conscious decision or something else entirely is left to us to figure out. With a complex narrative and a subtle, fascinating performance by Zoe Stein, who played a version of Cata in Lucia's 2020 short film of the same title, Forastera is a modest but powerful debut, and it's kicking off its North American theatrical run this Friday, May 29th, at Film Forum in New York. You should see it. Lucia picked Petite Maman, Celine Sciamma's beguiling drama about another granddaughter coping with the death of her grandmother, though in this case, 8-year-old Nellie doesn't really understand grief. Instead, she wanders off into the forest behind her grandmother's house while her mother works to clear it out, and meets a little girl who looks remarkably like her. And that's because Marion is her mother, at 8 years old, hanging its emotional power almost entirely on the remarkably natural presence of sisters Josephine and Gabrielle Sands. Petite Maman lets Sciamma spin a delicate, loving fantasy of reconciliation and healing pitched from a child's eye view. No wonder Lucia loves it. This is Someone Else's Movie.
I have a very distinct memory of how this film made me feel when I first saw it, how it wrecked me, to be completely honest. I think I was so shocked and moved by the story and by its simplicity. I love all of Celine's films, and I was really excited to see Petite Maman. And I feel like she gets a lot of love. Obviously, Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Girlhood and Water Lilies. And I just want to shine more light on this film because I think it's a masterpiece in coming of age stories. And kind of the perfect story to be told through a cinematic medium. We get to play with time in such interesting and original ways in cinema, and this premise is sort of perfect for that. You know, trying to have a daughter and a mother in conversation without actually having them in conversation, and putting this little girl with her mother at the same age is just, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a real surprise for me after Portrait of a Lady on Fire to see it in that order, right? That progression, because Portrait of a Lady on Fire is so big and so expansive, and it is really only a study of a couple of characters, but it is this massive historical epic that's taking place behind them and in the background, and all of history is sort of weighing on those characters with the expectations of the roles they're supposed to perform and everything else. And then she makes this tiny little, it felt like a first feature to me. It felt like the first feature she never got to make.
It totally does. It totally does. And I think there's something to learn about I don't know, I rewatched it recently, and I kept thinking about, for some reason, early Spielberg and E.T. I don't know why. I think the sort of fantasy element is there, but Celine writes and directs with like such a filter of simplicity, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. I think there's such it's an incredible way in which she sort of distills the story to its most rich essentials, and so as a viewer, you're completely locked in to this story because there's no B plot, there's hardly conflict in the traditional sense of, you know, a screenplay, yet it's just as good as any other movie, right? And not to say that, you know, there's a time and a place for stories with a lot of conflict and misdirection and many plots, but this is a good lesson in just, yeah, taking one really good concept and running with it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned E.T. because that clarified something for me, specifically the idea that you're seeing a film from a child's point of view, but it's also
Mm,
made from the child's point of view. The aesthetic is innocent and it embodies this sense of, I mean, I suppose on one level it's magic realism, but at the other, it's there is no reason these things can't happen in a child's mind, right? Like the little boy finds an alien
completely.
and brings him home because that's just he's that great line that Elliot has earlier. I'm keeping him
Mm,
has a child's logic to it, and this
no,
is no one said Nellie couldn't travel back in time if she walked through the forest, and so there we are. And the film doesn't judge it. The film doesn't question it. We are placed not only in her perspective but in her mindset where there's just enough time to contemplate what's going on but not act on it.
completely. And I think because she makes that very intentional choice of not only the stories is completely through her perspective, it's shot all through her perspective, and so it's not worried about these sort of bigger genre questions of like, well, what happens now with the past and the future now that these two people have no, it's not about that. This little girl would never question any of this, so why would the movie worry about any of that? It's just trying to talk about how, I guess, how complicated grief is to deal with for little kids, and to try to make that connection with a family member.
I think that's it. I mean, I think that all the things that adults can't articulate about grief can be glimpsed, right?
Mm,
We see the adult mother walking around in a daze, not sure what to do. She's bearing all of it, and Nellie doesn't really understand it
mm,
because she's 8 and she's been sheltered. And even now, we watch like the adults are sort of protecting her from what's going on, and they don't mind that she wanders away because that's just in the backs of their minds. That's what kids do, and they're distracted, and everyone is just bubbled up in these sad little spaces. And a child has no, I mean, I remember being around my parents and grandparents when my great grandmother died. I think I was 5 or 6. I have this vague memory of how quiet the house was. That's the only thing that stayed
mm.
with me because I wasn't part of it. I'm sure I wandered off and I played in the backyard or in the basement or something because that's just where the kids go. And the
Mm.
understanding that children have, like, neither of the kids is written as a little adult. There's no sense that the audience needs to connect. Nobody articulates a thing because they just don't have they don't have the language for it. The adults don't either, but the kids are allowed not to.
Yeah.
And so we don't
Yeah.
get that. There's no catharsis. It's just this gentle, beautiful understanding.
And I think something she does so well as a writer and a director that I'm so inspired by is that she writes behavior um, before anything else, right? She's not worried about sort of building this super complex interior world in Nellie's mind. Actually, the even the opening is like a huge lesson in screenwriting, right? We're sort of dropped in, and we pretty quickly know what's going on, even though nobody said that someone has died. We just watch this girl say goodbye to the other women while her mother is picking up her grandmother's room, and you kind of have everything you need there because it you sort of learn what happens through this girl's behavior, and her behavior actually teaches you a lot about how she moves in this world, how she is incredibly observant and empathetic, and likes to connect with people, and is friendly. So it's already telling you so much and preparing you for the story in a way without actually having this sort of exposition. and always, again, always through her perspective. I think there's like one shot, I think the moment she meets Marion, it's sort of the widest shot, I think, maybe in the whole film. And it's almost, I, I don't know if it's a POV or if it's kind of shot more from above. It kind of has that ambiguity that I think, because she's so um, sort of uh, diligent about the visual language, when she does break or when she does something that's different, like the sort of slow dollies in the house that happen just a few times, it's really impactful, and you are like locked in, right? You're like, okay, wait, yeah, the wallpaper in the house suddenly, because she's pushing in, it's so simple, but she's such in control of the visual language that you are immediately connecting.
I was trying to figure out where to bring in the casting group, people who aren't aware, who might have seen the film and not done any deep dives into it. The kids are twins. Those are sisters playing a mother and daughter. But it is part of the visual strategy, right? That they look alike, that they be that similar. Because you can play with this, you can have styling choices, you can have ways to differentiate for our visual reference, but that clearly the whole point of it is that, other than one slightly newer jacket, there's nothing that will help us tell those characters apart. If you catch them at the wrong shot or the wrong angle, we won't know who's who. And it explains so much. It explains everything about the friendship that happens, that there's this mirroring going on. They can immediately relate to each other. They know it's safe. There's nothing spooky about running into another kid who looks like you, because when you're 8, everything is you. You exist in a complete level of not narcissism exactly, but there is no other. There's nothing outside of you. Mm-hmm. And so it makes perfect sense that a mother would look like the daughter she will have. And it throws us, through me anyway, for a minute or two, except the title kind of prepared. I mean, even that choice sets you up to understand nothing here is going to be distressing or frightening, because Sciamma has played with unpleasant things happening. There's pain and suffering in all of her movies, and there's pain and suffering here as well, but it's outside of Nellie's sphere. She knows she can't see her grandmother, but she doesn't really understand what any of that means. And she gets to meet someone who looks like her and immediately strike up a friendship and not question it. And again, the film is telling us somehow that this is all good, that this is going to be okay. And so you don't worry about the next plot development, and there's no horrifying, oh my God, she's going to be trapped there and become her own mother somehow. None of that. It's just, there are ways to make this a very, very different story. And I just like, Sciamma's so not interested in any of it. She just wants to watch.
And it's still so like beautiful and interesting, and you're completely enveloped by the world. And even it also made me think the fact that they're twins, and even the wardrobe choice is really interesting, right? That they almost dress of the same, right? There's like a sort of timelessness to the world she's created, and we don't need to know anything beyond this particular moment. Actually, the more similar they are, the more interesting, and like you said, the more connection they create, right? Instead, maybe someone else would have chosen to dress Marion very distinctly from a different period, right? Or to make that visual choice that is not wrong, but it's just a choice, and it shows how she has like incredible command of her stylistic decisions. And again, the simplicity doesn't mean it's boring. It's actually like a very dynamic film. There's some really fun cuts. I remember there's one where Nellie is in bed and wants it to be the next day so bad, and the father makes this sort of a little joke about all right, let's start the time machine, and he turns the light off, and then there's this incredible cut the next day in the forest, and it's stuff like that where she's clearly playing with the cinematic medium to kind of bring us into this world of fantasy. Um, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's also a nice subtle way to differentiate children and adults again, because that is how a grown-up would imagine. You have to make the time travel happen. You have to have some sort of fantastical. It just happens. She just wanders off, and
exactly.
I was so thrilled when it kept going, when there is no further complication. And I think that's what makes it feel. It's also only 70 minutes long. It's not like it's going to pan up and have an entire, explanation for everything that's been going on. But that's one of the other things that makes me think of it as a first feature, or as worthy of a first feature, is because you get this glimpse into simplicity when people, as I'm sure you've experienced, when people are making their first film, especially right now, you have to refine absolutely every piece of it so that it's achievable.
Yeah.
You have to strip out all the subplots.
It's a deceptive first feature element, right? Because has all the elements of a first feature, but like you said, it's completely refined, and it's someone who is very much in control of storytelling, of visual and stylistic choices, of not worrying about needing to sort of add so much to the world, which I think it's very easy to fall into, right? Or to need to create a lot more than you actually need.
Yeah. Well, the less there is, the more we fill it in with ourselves. And what we want to see, who we'd want to be in the situation. And I think the fact that in this case, she gives us 90% of the film is just child actors. And that lets us relax a little bit, because the kids aren't going to complicate things. They're doing a project that only makes sense to them, which I deeply love. And probably it will be finished by the end of the movie, but also there will just be all the things you do when you're playing with another kid as a child. You talk, you don't have a larger agenda. Now as an adult, we make fewer friends. We don't connect as easily. Everybody learns to protect themselves or present a version of themselves that they then become self-conscious about. That's something nobody talks about, how we're all just walking around with imposter syndrome, but it's not professional. It's just about personas. And the kids are so pure. And again, because they are identical, there's no tension for us. You're just watching this empathy happen, this connection form. And I was so glad too that there's no moment at the end where the adult Marion, where mom says, I had a friend around here. That's just like that would feel so American, or, differentiating them by giving them different hats or different sports teams. If it was boys, it would be, like the different generations of a hockey team or something. Canadian, I can't help that. But the sense that this is just a thing that happens, and maybe it doesn't really happen. Maybe it's just a moment of grace that has been granted this kid. I love the sense that there is absolutely no need to know. She's 8. It just happened, and we can fill that in and create whatever we want. It can be a gift from the grandmother, which somebody suggested after my first screening, and I thought, I guess that's okay. That could be fine. But again, you'd need more exposition, and the film it's too light. It can't sustain any larger ideas.
It doesn't concern itself with that, right? It's just putting you in that child's perspective, and it's like it's giving you that gift, right? Let's just hang out with these 2 kids for an hour and 15 minutes, and appreciate how playing allows us to to connect, to learn, to empathize. It's like it really is a great way to address bigger, scarier things, but without needing to have this sort of reckoning or explanation or sit down. I think the most sort of charged character maybe in the film is the house, right? It goes through so much change and is really the vehicle for a lot of the like fantastical elements, even though there's the magic is so reduced, I guess, if that is a way to explain it. Yes, muted maybe, and it kind of takes that responsibility off the other characters, having this this house be kind of a vessel for all of that.
Hey, it's Norm interrupting my own show to bring you up to speed on Shiny Things, my newsletter about physical media, culture, and the odd streaming project. Last week, I wrote about Warner's new 4K editions of Speed Racer and George Stevens' A Filmmaker's Journey, and Criterion's Blu-ray release of Ira Sachs' The Delta. And of course, there was Friday's What's Worth Watching dispatch for paid subscribers. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io or find a link at the Semcast Blue Sky account. You like reading about movies? I like writing about them. Come check it out. And to leave the house, go in a different direction, and come back to the house is a lovely little visual trick that doesn't require anything either. That's the other thing. It's so simple that it is just naturalistic. If this thing is happening, the kid doesn't care. She doesn't question it. And she does figure it out, which is so beautiful that she has just enough perspective, I think, that by the end, and I would love to talk to Sciamma about how she directed the kids, because that's such a fascinating performance. Like, both of them are both incredible, but the character of Nellie is so beautifully attenuated in that she's always a kid. She's never allowed, adult level of insight, but in a weird way, it feels like we're watching her memory of this event. So it's another level of refraction where just those moments of contemplation where she's walking around the earlier version of the house, and there is how can I put this? We understand that she knows the space. Like, she knows she's in the house. She knows where she is, but she either can't articulate it or doesn't want to. And there is something, again, it's so perfect and childlike to not want to break the spell, but never say anything, never push, right?
Completely of kind of just the curiosity of a child, right? Of like, well, I'll figure it out. It's okay. I may not understand it, but the only way to get it is to go through, right? And to have that mindset of curiosity. I think something to me that's really inspiring about this film too is how she takes these elements of magic, of fantasy, and doesn't concern herself with sort of the genre conventions. It kind of takes whatever she needs for the story, and doesn't really concern herself with any other explanation, or serving any other sort of genre elements. I think I'm super inspired by how she kind of makes her own rules there with this.
Yeah, and still manages to keep the tone as gentle and level as it is.
Well, it's her voice, right? That's who she is, and why would she try to tell it any other way? It's so inspiring.
Well, this was the other thing that I was thinking of rewatching at this time, was it's free of the the rage that shows up in her other films, because it's adults and
Mm-hmm.
adolescents experiencing it. Nellie doesn't have anything to be angry about because she doesn't really understand death yet. The adults are carrying it, but she's being protected from it. So the film can be very, very calm and just contain this incredible heart that
Yeah.
when Nellie gets older, she's going to have to learn to hide. And
Completely.
yeah, and you can see the adult Marion reconnecting to that as well and understand that the kid is strong enough to handle what's
Mm.
going on and what's coming next and all these other things. You never see a parent
And
take
it's
solace in a child this way.
completely, and it's a clear choice on her part of, when um the mother leaves, Nellie doesn't lash out or uh, have any sort of angry reaction, as you say. It's actually an opportunity for her to escape, and she does, and what an escape, that she sort of manages to find, right, to work through these feelings by uh, going away like this, going to this other world, and being open and empathetic and not questioning everything. I don't know. We have a lot to learn from Nellie.
Yeah, she's a great character. She's a good person, a good spirit. She's strong and she's resourceful. And of course, the other thing that almost feels too real to talk about, her grandmother is around in the past. Like that's the other thing. Like I don't know if she's drawn back to see her mother or her grandmother one more time. And that is, there's something so simple and beautiful to that sense, the thing that nobody talks about in time travel stories, because they're always about the machinery and the mechanics and whatever problem needs to be solved. Who wouldn't want to go back to a place where the people we lost are still around? And the appeal of that as an adult, I mean, since this film was released, both of my wife's parents have died. My father died just like a year later after the film came out. And it's completely changed my relationship to all the cinema that I'd seen before.
Mm,
To know that, obviously this is not a new idea in any way. Movies are time machines, and you get to go back to whenever they were shot and see whatever was happening. So many people who are no longer with us are in them. But to make it personal and then just to not have Nellie be greedy about it, I think is the thing. That's what's different about her. She's just there to enjoy it, and she's not there to have more. Like she's not greedy. She doesn't want, it's not a selfish journey. I think
mm,
she's going there. Yes, she gets to reconnect with the younger version of her mother and the younger version of her grandmother, but I think she's there for Marion. I think she's there to help.
mm. It's a journey of understanding, right? I think it it comes from, yeah, her mother having to leave and not understanding why she needs that space. Perhaps she wonders if she'll come back or not. I would assume, but what's beautiful and fascinating about the character is that she doesn't let that lead her. It's actually just it's very selfless, and like you're saying, it's about Marion. It's about helping this other girl and keeping her company and making sure that she's okay. And yeah, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And this does let me pivot to your film because I don't want to give it short shrift. It's when you picked Petite Maman, it was an instant moment of, oh, of course, that makes perfect sense. Forastera is a film about connecting with the people we've lost, but it's even more ambiguous as to who's doing the connecting or why. It's just this character study that suddenly becomes a double character story. And doing it creates this sort of tightrope walk for the audience because not knowing what's going on is the whole point.
Mm,
And we need to see the characters don't quite know what's going on either, which is such an interesting tone to strike, and one that, I mean, my experience of the film was I had not seen the short. I've since caught up to it, but it's such an interesting expansion of the ideas in the short film that we can cling to someone who's gone so much that we lose our grip on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my intention with the journey for this character was very much sort of taking this idea of playing pretend and of this game of escaping, and how often, in life, the best way to explain a game is to just play and to figure it out as you go. And so I wanted to take that idea into the writing, into the storytelling of allowing this ambiguity and the unknown of living with it, of living with that discomfort of these characters not quite knowing where they're going, but giving themselves the space to escape, and to deal with grief in this very odd but tender way. And yeah, I think I was just really, really curious and fascinated by grief in a family structure, by how little it gets talked about, and how it can become this sort of taboo for kids and for teenagers, and there's no right way to navigate it. It's just about getting through it and living with it, really.
And grief tends to come with an excuse built in, right? I mean, we all experience it differently, but we all forgive it in other people, or we're prepared to. So the hook of your film then becomes no one calling out what's happening, no one actually saying anything concrete about what they're experiencing, which is also similar to Petite Maman, where the kids don't have the language for it. Here we're watching young people, older people, an entire, like, the generational expanse of this family not know how to move forward or to deal with the thing that's happening next, which is I mean, it's a potentially more fantastical explanation, but it is absolutely my experience of grief. When an older family member dies, the vacuum that's created is absolute and immediate, even if someone has been dying for a very long time.
Yeah.
When it happens, all you know is that it's over, and there's a new, this is what I have said far too many times, there's the person you were before the loss, and then there's the person you are, because you have to pick up the role, or whatever aspect of support that person gave you is gone. You have to find another way to get it for yourself. And yeah, Forastera is about coping, but it's also about the past not letting go.
Yeah, and about how that absence creates presence in a very eerie way, right? I think, like you said, losing a family member, even if you're someone seeing it coming, or like this film, like Forastera, you don't see it coming, it is a huge disruptor for a family structure, and rebuilding is very difficult. It in many ways can break relationships, can bring things to the surface, the conflicts to the surface, but it can also bring you closer to other family members. And I was very curious in exploring those two, the tension of that, of this character of Kata sort of having this journey that for me is very inward, right? In playing pretend, she kind of learns more about herself than about her grandmother. And it also makes her more empathetic, curiously, right? Like having this sort of moment of play and um, somewhat perhaps selfish but necessary, kind of connects her in many ways to her grandfather and eventually to her mother, right?
And it's all put together with this kind of level-headed aesthetic. There's nothing. There are
Mhm.
some long takes in darkness, and there's a great use of silence throughout the film, or at least atmospheric sound rather than dialogue, to convey emotion and intensity. But it is entirely possible that there is nothing fantastical or paranormal, right? I mean, the tease is there, and it's absolutely something that if you leave the theater, you can believe it. You can insist on it. It's a beguiling approach where it is just people having a really bad time,
Mhm.
or it's something else. And both of those interpretations are absolutely valid because there's nothing in the film to either support or deny either interpretation.
Mhm. Totally. And I think I was very inspired by Petite Maman in that way, right?
Mm.
Where she's playing with these sort of magical elements, but it's not, it doesn't drive the plot in a way. It is for the characters' growth and development. And I was really interested in sort of taking these ghostly genre elements and weaving them into like the fabric of the world for those who needed them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and also, that house is just as much a character as the characters in the film, and really sort of using the the house to depict these sort of glitches in reality was very important to me.
Yeah. The way I usually go out on the podcast is by asking what of the film you've chosen has been subsequently useful to you, if you've borrowed or,
Mm.
or lifted or outright stolen something. And since you had made the short the short was released in 2020, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
predates Sciamma's film, but then your feature comes well after. So did seeing Petite Maman give you a new idea or a new angle on your material, or was it simply proof of concept that someone could do this at feature length?
I think um, I think I was so moved by her storytelling, and I think as I was developing the feature, um, well, to be honest, I before I made the short film, I actually had the feature version written, and then we
Uh,
made the short, and then I took some years to try to rewrite and figure out uh, a way in that felt like I wasn't just doing the same thing with the short, that felt uh, new for me, if that makes sense. And I think something that, seeing Petite Maman really opened up this idea of treating this subject with light, and having like a more luminous approach to grief, a more tender approach to grief, and a compassionate. I think I was very inspired by how, uh, even though there's hardly any, as we were saying, conflict, a clear conflict in Petite Maman, it's still incredibly moving. And um, I think I took a lot of that, I think, when I first saw it, and was very inspired by that idea that it didn't have to have all this drama and conflict to be able to connect. If that makes sense.
I think so. And having made it and seen it go into the world on the festival circuit last year, how are you feeling about it? Are you getting the response from audiences that you'd hoped that you would get? Are people understanding its meaning and purpose?
Yeah, it's been really beautiful to be able to sort of let go of the story and see how other people are taking it in. It's really, I think it evokes a lot of personal feelings for everyone. I've talked to people who had just recently lost a family member, and this has been a helpful way to kind of see what they're going through somehow represented, even though it's so Kata's journey is quite odd. I think you still kind of connect with her need to try to keep this person around for longer, and even if you haven't done exactly what this character does in this film, you find a way to connect with her circumstance.
My thanks to Lucía Aleñar Iglesias, whose enthralling first feature, Forastera, kicks off its North American release this Friday at Film Forum in New York. Lucía will be there for Q&As after the 7 p.m. shows on Friday and Saturday night. Thanks also to Maria Silk. She knows what she did. You can find Lucía on Instagram at Lucia_AI. Those are her initials. She was there first. And you can find Petite Maman on Blu-ray and DVD in the Criterion Collection. It's also streaming on Canopy in the US and available to rent or buy on various VOD services across North America. You can find me on Blue Sky at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/Semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 40 of which aren't currently available anywhere else. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps. It truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, get all the boosters. I'll see you next week.